That's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be really interesting for Forest next season. There will be more teams next season that go, wait a minute, let's not dominate possession. Let's sit deep a little bit. I think Forest are a good team. I don't think they're going to be good in the same way that they will be next season, because they can't.
Well, you mentioned Nottingham Forest United's opponents this week. It is an interesting case where, as you said, they spent a ton of money, got a little slap on the wrist, but in a way have demonstrated a kind of social mobility in the Premier League that maybe Newcastle looks at this case and they're like, should we have just spent a bunch of money one summer? It's kind of interesting because that part has gone away, and now Nottingham Forest are playing with the big boys at the top of the league.
This has been brought up 2 or 3 times. I get this in Q&As or email questions of why don't Manchester United or why don't another football club just say, sod to PSR, we'll take the 4 point or whatever point deduction and just buy the players we need. First things first. Nottingham Forest did not deliberately seek out to break PSR rules, right? They spent a lot of money on a lot of football players, and there was a point where Steve Cooper basically, I think one person said their training sessions were sort of you had preliminary training sessions, and also you can enter the real training session, because there was a point where it looked like they had 33 first team players on the books. That was not the intention. Steve Cooper and the Forest management did not intend to buy that many players all at once, all at the same time. And they definitely churned and went through a lot of players before they eventually settled on what they wanted to do. So, while you can say many things about Nottingham Forest's chairman and how he runs his other football clubs and how he's a very eccentric individual, and he's not going to call a spade a dirt relocation device. He's going to call it a spade. While he's a very interesting figure, the plan wasn't, let's break all the rules and then figure things out later on. The plan was, let's try and figure out what sort of team we need to win to stay in the Premier League. And be it through accident design, what they eventually landed on is the Premier League now is going to be a land of 6 foot transitional moments. And I think this Forest squad is slightly ahead of the curve. I think it's quite interesting in that we just spoke about how we all knew the way that the exhaust pipe, the exhaust valve and the Death Star that was Manchester City was this. And it seems like Forest has gone, what if we just create a team that's just good at that particular thing? And lo and behold, this Forest team has become very good at beating up the traditional established bigger teams. They've got really good results against Manchester City this season. They've got a very good result against Liverpool at Anfield. They've got good results home and away against Manchester United. They absolutely tore Brighton apart. So the teams that perhaps want to look to dominate the ball are getting beaten up a little bit by Forest. And I think that might be how the Premier League for the next 2 or 3 years will be, is can you get technicians? Still, you want to have technicians. I'm not just saying all Forest do is counter-attack. I think a player like Elliot Anderson is absolutely phenomenal. I think Morgan Gibbs-White is a fantastic football player. And I'm absolutely eating humble pie because I said 40 million for Morgan Gibbs-White wasn't a good deal. And it turned out it was an absolute steal. But also, it's players like Anthony Elanga. He's registered as the 5th, maybe 6th fastest player in the Premier League at the moment. It's a player like Callum Hudson-Odoi, who finally has found his feet at a Premier League club after some inconsistencies at Chelsea. Right? It's players that can, when you win the ball or when you lose the ball, can fight and scrap and get the ball from the edge of their penalty area and to the edge of your penalty area in 10 seconds. And I think you will see more teams try to do that between now and however long, until Pep Guardiola figures out what he wants to do with City. I'm looking at his City team and I'm going, Pep's going to figure this out in 2 years, and then everything's going to change all over again.
He's going to reset the whole game table. Yeah,
I don't like this idea that everyone just copies what Pep does, but also maybe.
There was talk that Arteta was a clone and all those things. I do think it's a bit simplistic, but there are things that Guardiola does that suddenly everybody does, or at least they have to react to.
Yes.
And it becomes either a trend or an anti-trend.
Yes. And I think maybe the way Nottingham Forest are playing is a response to how so many of the top teams were playing, not just Manchester City and not just Pep, but how so many of the teams were playing at the top. So Nottingham Forest went, well, how do you hurt a team that plays like that? And it's counter-attack them. really, really, really hard.
I mean, sometimes I have sort of the football caveman brain when I see Arsenal go play a team like Nottingham Forest, and I'm like, can we just let them have the ball for a bit? And it doesn't.
Well,
like I think of that with Manchester United going this week.
This is a really, really good. So I've heard 2 or 3 people compare this Nottingham Forest team in particular to the Leicester City team of 15-16. So the one that did for the 5,000-1 champions. I don't think it's quite 1-1. I don't think any team with N'Golo Kante in it can be compared to a team that doesn't have N'Golo Kante in it, because when you've got N'Golo Kante who's fit, a large part of your strategy is N'Golo Kante, in all caps. However, I think what is interesting, and you've touched upon it, is we all know how Forest want to play. So United finished that 1-0 defeat yesterday with 69% possession, which is exactly what Nottingham Forest want.
Yeah.
Right? Oli Aina went off injured, and then Forest went to fight 3 at the back, and Manchester United started chasing the game and dominating. And Forest were going, okay, you can have the ball, because the moment you lose it, we're coming for you on the counter-attack. And now, the really interesting thing about the Leicester City season is one of the very few top teams that got the double over them was Arsenal. And the reason why Arsenal did it is because Wenger was one of the very few people who went, why are we playing Leicester City as if it's Leicester City from the bottom half? Why don't we play them as if they are a very good team, right? As if they're a top team that's very good at counter-attacking. Let's give them the ball a little bit. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be really interesting for Forest next season. There will be more teams next season that go, wait a minute, let's not dominate possession. Let's sit deep a little bit. I think Forest are a good team. I don't think they're going to be good in the same way that they will be next season, because they can't. They're going to start playing 2 games a week. They've got a squad that needs probably 2 or 3 extra options. Chris Wood has had a phenomenal season, but Chris Wood's not going to outperform his XG. He's not going to be able to finish so many chances in the bottom corner with 1 hit. So they're probably going to they might need to get another striker in as well there too. But yeah, why don't you let Nottingham Forest have the ball is a big question. I also think, speaking as a Manchester United reporter and a Manchester United fan, I'm pretty sure, or I get the sense that there's probably someone in and around Carrington, the Man United training ground, going, how do we do to Manchester City what Nottingham Forest did to us on Tuesday?